Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Our Watch with Tim Thompson. I'm really excited to have a very special guest with us today, especially after the June 7th primary elections. We have a victorious man with us. His name is Mike Hestrin. He is, yet again, the DA right here in Riverside County. Mike Hestrin, thank you so much for joining us today, and congratulations to you.
Thanks for having me, Tim. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, it's neat to see when the voters vote and their voice is heard, and Riverside County has spoken very loud and very clear that they want another 4-year term with Mike Hestrin. So we're happy about that. How do you feel about it?
Well, I'm almost positive that that's going to be the outcome. It's just that the Riverside County has been incredibly slow at counting votes, and it's a little frustrating. So each day at 6 p.m., the Registrar of Voters is releasing a new tranche of votes that they've counted, and each day I've been going up a little bit. So that tells me that it's going to hold, but I'll be happy when the whole thing is over. Put it that way, when we're all done counting.
Yeah, I'm sure. But the lead you have right now is a commanding lead. You're doing, it's pretty obvious that Riverside County is happy to have you back and continuing what you've been doing. During the whole campaign season, there was a lot of attacks against you, as would be expected. That's just how politics works. But one of them in particular I thought was pretty interesting was a text message that went out to so many people. I received it. My whole family received it, giving out false numbers. And
Right.
yeah, it's interesting to see those false numbers because they were so false. It was almost, it should be embarrassing for the one who sent it out.
Yeah. Tim, one of the things that happens in campaigns now is that people can lie and people can put out false information, and it's especially if there's if they have a kind of a Weasley argument to say that it's true, then they can deceive the voters, and that's unfortunate that happens. I think it happens pretty routinely in our politics, and I hope and I think the voters are smarter than that, and I hope that they vote appropriately.
Yeah. When you get text messages like that and you hear a number like that, there's common sense voters out there that just know, because living in Riverside County, we've watched, especially over the last 4 years with you as the district attorney, we have watched living in Riverside County has been an incredible blessing when you compare it to other counties. We look at what's happened in San Francisco County, and with what just took place up there, Chesa Boudin being recalled. He's a George Soros backed or funded district attorney, and that was exactly what was. They were trying to do the same thing right here in Riverside County. And what happens when you get that type of district attorney in a county?
Well, what I've been saying through the campaign, Tim, is that the progressive prosecutor experiment, and that's what it is. It's been an experiment, a social experiment on the people, has been going on for years now in places like Los Angeles, San Francisco, but also Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, really in places all across the country. And, the results are in. It's been a complete and utter failure. I personally think it's been a disaster. And a lot of people don't know the results are in because, the media doesn't necessarily fairly report on the results, but they're in. If you can find them, if you want to do a little research, and wherever we have these progressive prosecutors, not only crime is out of control, but public order is lost, and people can't enjoy their parks and their streets. And, it's appalling what's happening to our major American cities.
Yeah.
So I think that yeah, they wanted to do that here in Riverside County, but I knew from the beginning that the voters here are smarter than that. They weren't going to let that happen.
Right. And we look at this type of agenda for a county. Brad Jones writes for the Epoch Times. He wrote an incredible article about the recall of Chesa Boudin, and it was very, very detailed, has a lot of really good background information. But as I was reading that article, did you see that article?
I've seen a few, but I'm not sure if I saw that one.
Okay. You should read that one by Brad Jones. Really, really good article. But he just paints a really good picture of the facts of what's happened in San Francisco with a district attorney like that. What do we see with those type of policies when that's what's going on?
Criminal justice policy is not rocket science. It really isn't. It's pretty simple. If you legalize activity, you're going to get more of it. So what that tells you is kind of a fundamental principle is that criminals will use reason and logic to decide what their behavior is, right? If there's no punishment for a behavior, even if it's technically illegal on the books, then we've in effect legalized it. And so if you don't punish, if you don't enforce, then you get a whole lot more of whatever that activity that you're being permissive about. And that's what we're seeing all over the country. You know, we have these DAs that get in there and they say, well, I'm not going to enforce these so-called quality of life crimes. And so what happens to the quality of life of their tax-paying citizens? It goes down. They lose their quality of life. They can't walk down the street. They can't use their parks. And that's not fair to them. They're law-abiding, tax-paying citizens that have a right to, enjoy the fruits of their labor. And they're not able to do that because you have a single person in office who is undermining as opposed to enforcing the law.
Yeah. Brad Jones, in his article in the Epoch Times, he talks about the Marxist background of Chesa Boudin, just how he was raised by Marxists, and he's got this. And if anybody's curious, they should go to Epoch Times, read his article about this really incredible history. He put a lot of time into this article, but can you speak to that? Because a lot of people, they don't understand that this really truly is, it's a Marxist, it's right out of the Marxist playbook. And we see the fabric of America being torn apart. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people hear that, they hear Marxist and they think, oh gosh, it sounds like the old, Red Scare, the communists from, or someone saying, oh, he's a communist from back from the 1970s. But I think it's changed. So the Marxist worldview is now absolutely the dominant worldview in the vast majority of our colleges and our academic institutions. And that worldview has spread out to corporate America and it's spread to government. And so I do think it's a Marxist worldview. And, it's based on these Marxist ideas, this Marxist philosophy. And everywhere that's been tried, it's a disaster, trying to use government force to prescribe outcomes as opposed to letting people have the freedom to, do what they want and make the best of their life with their skills and their talents. It's the opposite of that. And it's incredibly damaging. It's incredibly detrimental to the public and to our society.
Right. And I watched when Chesa Boudin was put into office, within a couple of hours, he had fired some really incredible people that were working for the district attorney's office. We watched the same type of thing happen in Los Angeles with George Gascon. Within an hour, he had issued, I forget, you probably know the number, but several, I forget the word too, but within an hour, he had issued all these directives. Yeah. That were going to fundamentally change how the district attorney's office was going to work. And these were things that happened just immediately once they were sworn in. And here you are, you've got another 4 years and you've been doing an incredible job. Do you have anything where you're saying, hey, I'm going to make some change right away, or are you happy with how things are going? You're going to just continue on exactly how things are going?
So I obviously have some goals for the next term, but let me just comment on something you said, because I think it's important. We had a court case come out of the appellate courts this last week, actually, that said, a DA has discretion because our job is to seek justice. So when we're charging crimes, we can take into account the overall greater justice. But the courts were very clear. They said a DA, though, is not, a sovereign unto himself or herself. The DA cannot just disregard laws. And that's the difference, right? So George Gascon came in on his first day and said, these are the laws I'm no longer going to enforce. So he, in a sense, effectively legalized that behavior for the county of Los Angeles. We don't have the power to do that. That's a subversion of our system. The people are sovereign, not DAs. DAs are supposed to faithfully execute the laws that are passed by the people through their representatives. So I'm going to do that, Tim. I'm going to adhere to my oath. I took an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution, the California Constitution, and to uphold the law. And I'm going to do that to the best of my ability every day, day in and day out. my goals for the next term are really a couple things. I'm going to continue to hit hard on the fentanyl crisis. I'm going to continue to speak the truth about it, because there's a lot of lies and misinformation about fentanyl, and the media doesn't want to report the truth. And I'm going to hopefully push the narrative, push the truth as opposed to the narrative, I should say. And the other thing I want to really focus on is homelessness. I think that's another area where, we've been told by the media and by the elites in our society that, it's somehow compassionate and kind to leave the homeless alone, living under the bridge or in the riverbed. And I think that's the opposite. I think we've become quite cruel. We drive by them, we walk by them. There are fellow human beings, there are brothers and sisters, and we do nothing. So we've got to find the will to tell them, look, we're going to reach a hand out for you and help you get the treatment you need, but you can't live on the streets anymore. You can't live under the bridge anymore. That's not safe for anybody. Right. And as a society, we've got to have the will to do that and to say that.
Right. Two. We don't have much time left, but two final things. One, you talked about the fentanyl crisis. You, as a district attorney, and of course, you're good friends with the sheriff of Riverside County, Chad Bianco. You both, but you, especially as the DA, you have been a vanguard to get out and make some change when it comes to fentanyl crisis we have. Can you briefly tell us about what you have done as a DA, unique to any other DA we have in this nation? That's one. I'm going to just ask the next question. I'll let you go and say what you're going to say. The other one is you've been instrumental in trying to help protect our children from predators. There is a predator problem in our nation, and you've taken some measures to help protect our children. Will you talk about that as well?
Sure. Let me start with fentanyl. So Riverside County has 20 fentanyl homicide cases now that we've charged, and those cases are moving their way through the system, the criminal justice system. What that means is, in our county, when somebody deals fentanyl and they know it's fentanyl and they end up killing someone because of that drug dealing, we're going to charge them with murder. And again, that goes back to what the law says. That's what the law says, Tim. It's not, I didn't make up a law. There's not a new law that was passed. I read the law closely, and I have an obligation to enforce the law as it's written and what it means in kind of plain language. And it plainly says that if someone's doing that behavior and they kill someone, they ought to be accountable for that death. And so that's how we've moved forward in Riverside County. And to howls of protest from the left, I know they try to say that I'm being too hard on these drug dealers, but I want to get the message out. These drug dealers need to stop peddling their poison to our communities. Real simple. If you don't want to be charged with murder, stop dealing fentanyl. And so, some people might say it's harsh, but it's the law, and I'm going to enforce it. The other area you talked about was our kids. We have a huge problem with child predators online. I'm a child of the 70s. My parents told me, when you're out at the parks with your friends, stay away from people in vans who are offering you candy or puppies. Those predators are no longer in vans. They're online, and they're on the devices that we all have in our pockets. And so we've started a team at our office, and it's a task force. So the sheriff's involved and other law enforcement agencies are involved, but we police the internet. We police cyberspace, and that's absolutely required nowadays. So I've got investigators that are online catching these predators, and the volume of these just disgusting, despicable criminals is shocking. It really is. And our kids are online. So, if we can catch them, we're going to put them behind bars for a long time. But what I would say to parents is, you need to know what your kids are looking at online. You need to understand that there are real dangers. These predators groom kids over time and get them to come out of their homes and meet them at parks, and horrible things happen.
Yeah. Well, we're grateful that you put that task force together. We're grateful for you, like I said, being the vanguard and making change when it comes to this fentanyl crisis we have here in America. I know everybody I've talked to has been so grateful that you're doing the job you're doing, and we're very grateful to have you for another 4 years. So we wish you the best. We're going to continue to pray for you. If there's anything that you need from the Christian community, we'd love to hear from you. Of course, prayers goes without saying. We're going to be praying for you, your family. You have a beautiful family, and you've got a great team at your office. So thank you so much for all that you do, and we're excited to see what happens over these next 4 years.
Thank you, Tim. And that brings to mind something. I don't want people to hear me talk and think that I do this all by myself. I have a great team. I have incredible prosecutors and investigators and advocates, and they're so dedicated and devoted to this mission that we have. And so, yes, obviously I couldn't do this without all of their hard work. So it's a great reminder, and I'm incredibly grateful for all that they do.
Amen. Thank you so much, District Attorney Mike Hestrin.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. Well, that is it for us from Our Watch with Tim Thompson today. Want to thank you for joining us. Also want to let you know, if you haven't subscribed to the Epoch Times, highly recommend it. It's a great source of news, unbiased. We talked today about this article from Brad Jones. We're going to put the link to it in the comments, so make sure that you go and check that out. God bless you. We will see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.